Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
You're not even going to add into it? Like, you're not going to
Why?
flask it?
Why? I want to
Because I feel
remember
like
all of it.
Murder mystery needs a flask.
It might, but at the same token, and maybe this is where I really lean into being a hat guy, perhaps.
Right. I mean, I really think it's funny you didn't think you were a hat guy.
I wasn't sure, because the thing is, you always see it in movies where they are set in the past, that actors these days do not know how to wear a hat properly.
True.
And I think that comes from the fact that very, very few people outside of Brooklyn wear hats on the regular.
True.
And I would love to be a fedora guy.
Yeah.
And so our trip to the polo match last week,
Yes,
which sounds a lot more bougie than it was.
Oh, please. There's no way polo's not bougie.
It was pretty, yeah.
But see,
nothing but white people as far as the eye could see.
But see, I hate the word bougie because it's not, it's one of those words that I feel is mistermed.
Okay, could see that, sure.
Because it's like bougie's less than polo.
Yeah, that doesn't begin to.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
If we're going literal,
right?
We're going
right.
You know, French Revolution definition.
Yes. Pardon me, Monsieur. I did not mean to do that. But I have a kind of a straw-ish fedora.
Is it a fedora or is it?
It's a fedora shape. It's not like a flat boat or, I should be gondoling or something.
Well, no, I don't see you in like a gondola boater, but I see you in like a Henley boater, like a very, like a blue blazer, maybe an ascot.
Okay. Yeah, not like a pork pie hat kind of thing.
No, you're definitely not a pork pie.
No. But I think I'm getting into it.
Oh yeah.
I think I could really be that guy who wears unironically, which is the big, caveat to all of this. It must be done unironically.
Of course.
I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I think I might be able to pull it off.
I think you can too.
Which are famous last words, of course.
That would be a terrible episode, but
yeah, it would be.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
I think I got a good night's rest, which helped.
Good.
I think everything is less horrific than it was yesterday. Maybe.
That's excellent. Yeah. So far.
Hopefully no one gets murdered at dinner.
Oh, someone's getting murdered at dinner.
So we shall
see. I wonder what kind it'll be. Like, there's different styles of the audience participation.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Ours was like which I think is actually the best way in a professional murder mystery, where your cast is the cast and the audience like participates in guests and things like that. And they can pretend they're a character, like they can make one up, but then they don't have to. But when you give I don't like murder mysteries where the cast has a binder. I find that.
I see. Restrictive.
Well, and I feel like, okay, you could do that at home. That's like a how to host a murder party.
Oh, I see. He's holding a binder.
And a lot of times, like we did there was a work Christmas party once at Sandy's place of employment when I was.
God, that's amazing.
And they had a professional cast, but then they took people from the audience, of which, of course, I was one.
Of course.
And I was clearly like the Southern floozy. Shocker.
Yeah.
They like figured that out fast. But then we all had I had a binder I had to work off of.
No. If you want, you don't bring in, And
it wasn't even like they made it look like a case file. Like it was a binder with the branding of the murder mystery company on it.
No, you don't bring in Meryl Streep and ask her to read off the sides. You let her go. You let that horse run.
Right. I think I did get rid of my binder. I think I went rogue.
Tracks as well, and I'm sure made everyone completely mental. That's perfect. What came first, the Sideshow or the Gelato?
Sideshow.
Okay.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it's like we're all complicated, right? We're all made up of the sums of our interests and things that have passed through our existence. And, I was first kind of exposed to the idea of the Sideshow through a couple of different things. The first being a young kid who was into monster movies and staying up late and watching whatever on my little black and white TV in my bedroom. And being a overweight and the only Jewish kid in my school, which made me an incredible outcast, stumbling across a showing of a scratchy, faded black and white print of Freaks on late night television one night, after hearing a lot about the film, about how terrible and disturbing it was, and finding it incredibly and amazingly sympathetic to the people that we're supposed to be afraid of, and finding that the normal sized regular people were the monsters, and they were the ones committing the atrocities and the horror. And it resonated with me, probably on not a level that I understood at that young age,
Certainly.
but strong enough that I wanted to know more about these people. I looked into books that were available at the library, and it just became part of my interest. The other thing was, I had a dad who was in show business. He was a lousy magician and a successful but mediocre stand-up comic and ventriloquist. And he was sort of on the rise in his career. He'd gotten divorced from my mom, and he was performing at a country music caravan at the Michigan. Oh, 1 second, can we pause?
Sure,
Just-
of course.
No
I
problem.
gotta let an employee in. Hold on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go right ahead.
I just it's such a fascinating, and I just noticed the graphic for it, which is like
What?
a Sideshow Barker.
Which
Mhm.
which one?
The one and the Sideshow Barker, balancing the Gelato cup.
Oh yeah, the
different
logo.
scoops.
Yeah.
The talker.
Which-
He's a talker, not a
Oh,
barker.
that's Talker.
He doesn't,
Yes.
he doesn't bark, he talks. A barker
But
is
what
a barker is a person in the Sideshow who just who just screams things like play the game 50 cents, play the game 50 cents, play the game 50 cents. There's nothing to it. A talker, or an outside talker as they're known, is an art. It's, they've made dress like that, and they've been looked at in the vernacular of the modern day as the barker, but they're not a barker. They're ladies and gentlemen, here on the main stage, we offer you the most amazing acts that you've ever seen. They didn't ask to be born this way, yet here they are for your amusement and edification. That was the talk.
Okay, that's
So
I and how do you feel about the term carny? Because I know some find it offensive, some find it.
I aspire to be carny trash.
I think we're all evolving that way. and
Yes.
Is there anything better? But
No.
the thing I noticed, you have the talker, but across the top, it says everybody's happy on the inside,
It was
which I
it was
completely missed until just now.
Which I love.
it's a double, sort of a double entendre, I guess. I mean, it's one of those things that actually a barker would say, not a talker. Somebody that a lot of the times that was actually a term used probably more out on like State Street in the 1960s during the strip club days, or burlesque. But it was used a bit in the carnival to get people to come. The talker would use to get into the tent. And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, you have to see this show. Everybody's happy on the inside. And I thought that, that was
Perfect.
Not only apropos of you know, of what we're presenting here, but also Gelato does that to you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
If it's working, yeah.
Yes. So go back and finish your story if you don't mind. You were just
so
getting to Michigan.
So anyway, so my dad at the time was a like I said, a lousy magician and a mediocre stand-up comic and ventriloquist, but he had some success with that. And he was just getting kind of his start. And he ended up becoming really big on the country music circuit, mainly because he had a puppet crow named Carlton, and that kind of resonated, I guess, with the country music crowd. But but because of that, he got booked on as an MC for this little country music caravan trailer that was on the fairgrounds. And my mom, being divorced from my dad and thinking that my dad should spend more time with the kids, was like, you take the kids to the state fair. And he was like, well, I don't have time for this. And so she insisted, and there we were. And rather than watch my dad's act over and over again, I got handed a fistful of tickets and some cash to go wander around on the fairgrounds to see what I could see. And there were rides, and I was never a roller coaster guy. The tilt-a-whirl or the scrambler or something like that was fine.
Yes,
but
me too.
The stuff that really appealed to me, and this was in the 1970s, was basically what Sideshow had evolved into at the time. I went as a kid excited to seek out at the carnival or the state fair what I thought was going to be the sideshows that I'd seen in the movies, in movies like Freaks. What I got was completely different, but no less fascinating. And it was things like, at the time, were very popular were the drug shows, where they would have a trailer that looked like a jail cell, and you can climb up the steps and see some guy, some hippie sitting there with like his python, and ravaged by the uses of LSD and all kinds of drugs.
Yes.
You could ask them questions and things like that, And I remember distinctly, and again, I had no point of reference for it at the time, climbing up the steps and standing to the side instead of like everybody else watching people move along and pass down, but standing back against the railing, watching people ask questions of this guy who was like clearly at this point sick of being there, and thinking to myself, this is a lot of fun. I'm less interested in this guy. I'm more interested in watching the reaction of the rubes who are coming through, and buying into this crap. And at that point, I was hooked. I was fascinated. Also, they had things like, Jaws was a big movie, so they had the world's largest great white shark, which was some dumbass rubber concoction that was to look much bigger through the use of like mirrors and projection when you look through a window, and things like that. So, but that was the stuff that kind of got me hooked in that direction. And then, the whole thing ended up playing into basically what would end up becoming a key part of the Gen X subculture, which is what I am. I'm a Gen Xer. And it was things like that. It was sort of the rise of the Jim Rose sideshow. And around 1994, I founded and started the Chicago Underground Film Festival, which was subculture. I mean, it was pure, simple subculture entertainment. And I think that a lot of the way that I ran the festival in the first 8 years, which was evident that it was me and it wasn't how the festival continued to run, even though it's running great still to this day, was that the way that I approach the promotion of the show, the Q&As, the guests, was pure Carney Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pure Carney Valley. It was pure sensationalism, and it was all about getting butts in the seats.
Of course. And then how did it evolve from the film festival? What made you decide to then bring this concept to life?
Well, there was a lot of stuff in between.
Well, tell us all. I didn't mean to skip over.
When I left, there was a lot of things that I've done in my life. I left the film festival originally in a pursuit to become a screenwriter, which led to me teaching screenwriting at Columbia College for a while, which led to me trying to figure out how I was going to continue to work on what information that I had clinking around in my head. So I ended up working for movie theaters as a manager, which is kind of a crap job. But that was parlayed into when they saw at one theater chain I worked for that I had a penchant for promotion and marketing. I ended up becoming the marketing manager, and spent a lot of my days showing movies to Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel in the screening room here in Chicago. A lot of the indie stuff that was playing at the theater,
which was amazing in that era.
Yeah, and that was the early 2000s.
I mean,
Siskel had
amazing.
died, and then it was Ebert and Roper for a while, and then it was just sort of Ebert and whoever came through. And then from there, I tried my hand at film distribution, and I picked up a couple of films to distribute. Wasn't particularly good at that, and went back to managing theaters and just kind of said, what am I doing? This isn't me. I'm not a company man. I'm not, I've always strived, if I've been able to utilize my own creativity and do the things that I, are more in line with my interests and things like that. And after a particularly ill-fated bout with working for a major theater chain, I ended up deciding I was going to go back to culinary school. I had been a cook before, and I've always been a good creative chef. And even through the film festival, I was doing a lot of the catering for my own parties at the festival. So not only was I running the festival, but I was catering some of the parties as well. And
so just a small little added task.
but I enjoyed it, so I went back to culinary school at the age of 40, and ended up working my way up as the old guy in the kitchen to a position at a restaurant here in the suburbs of Chicago that's owned by I think the third cousin on my mom's side.
Okay.
It's been in the family for next year it'll be 100 years. And it's 100-year-old Northern Italian restaurant. And I went there originally just to work. And when he realized that I had some talent and I was refreshing his menu and putting some new things on, I ended up becoming the executive chef, and was the executive chef for a long time at the Del Rio up in Highwood. I did a stint with an organization here, a not-for-profit, as a chef instructor and trainer, a group that helps people who are at or below poverty level try to get experience to go work in restaurants. And that came at a time when there was a serious drought of available restaurant workers. And I did that for a while and went back to the Del Rio. 50th birthday, I'd saved my pennies and dimes, and I had managed 2 years prior to it to book a a villa on the outskirts of Florence. And I took my daughter and my son-in-law and my, at the time, 6-year-old granddaughter and our best friends. And we went to Florence for my 50th birthday, which was around Christmas. My birthday's the 23rd of December. So we were there for a week and a half or so. And it was wonderful. And while we were there were moments when my granddaughter didn't want to do what the rest of the adults were doing, and I wasn't too keen about some of those things either. So her and I were walking around Florence.
Love it.
One word that she learned how to read in Italian was gelato.
Gelato, of course, most important one.
So in that time, we kind of ate our weight in gelato. And at the time for me was significantly more substantial. I was about 120 pounds heavier. And I was like, this is not ice cream. There's something going on here. So I started to look into like gelato and recipes and things like that. And I started to make like small batch gelato, or at least what I thought was gelato at the time, for the restaurant, for the Del Rio. And I decided that I needed more training. So there was a Italian company, Bravo Tritico, where I bought my machine from. And I took a couple of things with them in Italy. But I met up with, or I found an Italian gelato master who moved to the United States. He married an American and moved to the United States and opened up a very successful gelato shop in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And he was offering comprehensive training on the Italian methods of gelato making, how to balance it, all the math involved, how to do that, sorbettos, how to understand the sort of the science, and how to get gelato and not ice cream out of what you were doing. And I trained with him, and the pandemic hit basically, and I found myself in a situation where my cousin couldn't afford to keep me for the time being, and you know, he could barely keep the rest of the staff. And I started to try to figure out what I was going to do, what my next move was. And I figured, well, I've got all these crazy interests. At the time, you know, my interest in Sideshow had re-sparked basically because, you know, I was making pretty decent money as an executive chef. My wife and I were on the cusp of purchasing our first ever condo, our first ever home together in our 50s. And I was thinking of, now that I had the space to furnish it, starting to purchase gaffs and Sideshow items and things like that. So I was starting to get deeply back into it again. So I think it was just a culmination of all those things together. And this fever dream that I've dreamt up here is basically a culmination of all those ideas that came together. So during the pandemic, I got myself a $900 Chinese manufactured hard ice cream machine. And I took what I had learned from the Gelato Master. And since the city of Chicago had other problems on their hands to worry about some guy making gelato out of his house, I basically reached out to friends and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends on Facebook and social media. And anybody who wanted to donate to my research and development of my flavors were able to get free pints which I ran out in pint containers and bags full of ice to the curb like a drug dealer every Friday.
That's amazing.
People came and picked it up. So as the pandemic went through and I was starting to perfect some of the flavors and I was trying to figure out where I was going to go next, I was going to do a Halloween pop-up. That was an outside event because that's what you did, right?
Sure, of course.
And I set it up to basically sell some gelato like that outside, just on Halloween or around Halloween. And I was kind of despondent. I mean, I wasn't sure where I was going to go next. I was thinking, well, maybe I need to do a Kickstarter campaign and see if I can start raising money for this. And that seemed like a good idea. And I was like, well, if you're going to do a successful Kickstarter campaign, you need a video to attach to it. And I had one video that I had made prior to the pandemic with the idea of doing a Kickstarter campaign, which was sort of the pitch for the entire shop. But I needed some sort of like testimonial of some sort. So I've been a fan of Penn and Teller for a long time. And at the time, because Penn and Teller were off the stage due to the pandemic, Penn was doing cameos. Do you know Cameo? Okay.
Yeah.
Where you pay a celebrity and they'll do a little video for you, birthday, happy birthday or whatever. And Penn was having fun doing this and the money was going to charity. So I thought, well, maybe I can pay Penn the $200. He'll do an endorsement video or at least a video for my Kickstarter campaign. I can toss it up on the campaign. And I go on the Cameo and I see that across the top it says, Penn will not endorse or do advertising for any products. One of the things you could do through Cameo is for $6, you could send 140 character text to the celebrity and they may or may not get back to you. They may or may not respond, you know? And what I knew about Penn, what's that?
Right.
To make it count.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, I knew Penn from listening to the podcast and I'd met him a couple of times before. And it seemed to me he was the kind of guy that would probably return a text, you know? So I spent double the amount, had 280 characters and basically said, hey, this is who I am. Here's my website. Here's the video. Sideshow. Gelato shop. I do vegan flavors. Penn's a vegan. Is this something you would do a video for? Next day, I got the text back. Your celebrity has answered your text. And it was Penn, and Penn said, this is fantastic. I can't see how I can't be involved. Vegan gelato, huh?
It's amazing. Oh my God.
And he left one of the things the celebrity can do is they can leave the conversation open so you don't have to keep paying to respond, you know? So he left the conversation open. And I responded, yeah, would you like some?
Yeah.
So I made some plans and he was out in, I think it was like Oregon or somewhere like that, celebrating the holidays or being there for the holidays with his family. He doesn't celebrate the holidays. They were just vacationing out there around the holidays. And I said, I'm going to send you some gelato. So I made a special flavor for him and I made a whole bunch of vegan flavors and I sent it off. A couple days later, I get an email from his wife, Emily. And what it is it's a full video of him, Emily, and his mother-in-law sitting around the kitchen table, trying each flavor and commenting individually. And I'm watching Penn sort of like lose his mind over some of these flavors. So about a day later, I get a call from Emily saying, are you listening to Penn's podcast on Twitch right now? I was like, I don't listen to it on Twitch. I listen to it on Apple when it drops. She goes, okay, well, when it posts, listen to it. Penn wants to set up a call with you. So I listened to it. And for the next like half hour of the podcast, which you can find on my website if you want to listen to it.
And it should be noted, the podcast runs like an hour or so usually.
An hour. So for half an hour,
half the show.
He talks about my gelato and what I'm doing.
Right.
So he makes a comment. He says, I'm thinking I might want to invest in this. So he also talks to the other guys on the show about if they had a flavor, what flavors would they like? And I'm listening very intently.
Right.
So I talk with Penn and we get along. We hit it off. And I ask him if he would like to invest. And he's like, well, I can't be an angel investor. I don't invest huge amounts of money. I said, I want a huge amounts of money. I said, give me what you can, and I'll quadruple it in sweat equity. So you can help me promote it. So you're worth more to me as Penn than your money is,
Yeah, for sure.
So that was the deal I made. Then for the Kickstarter campaign, I did a flavor for each of the guys on his show, including Teller and Piff the Magic Dragon. And I sent a crate of each of the gelato to all of them. And the responses from all of them were spectacular. And Penn talked again for another half an hour about all their flavors.
Oh, perfect.
So I was kind of on my way. That was what I needed to sort of, get everything started. One of my investors came from listening to Penn's podcast, and he's a great guy. Him and his wife came in. And basically, I was on my way to starting this mess. So here I am. So
what an outstanding story.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So when people come to the shop,
yes,
what do you got going on there for the sideshow? We know the gelato scene.
So like anything, we've only been open 2 months. So essentially, we're trying to do a lot of different things, and we're some things work, some things don't.
Yeah, see what sticks.
We pivot. Originally, our plan was to do a Friday and Saturday sideshow. That didn't work. We're doing them Saturdays. Saturdays have been good. We're doing 3 shows on Saturdays, a 7, an 8, and a 9 o'clock show. That might change to a 6, a 7, and an 8, or a 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30 show. Don't know yet. We're heading probably in that direction. But the shows feature different performers from really from all over the United States now. We've been getting sideshow performers from all over that have heard about us and are coming in a short period of time.
Wonderful.
The shows are different every week. They include also our scoopers. All of my scoopers are performers. They're young fledgling performers. I have a mentor who's usually on staff with us, Professor Pinkerton Xyloma from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Dead Man's Carnival. And myself, because I've got a little bit of show business in me, and I can give notes and design acts and things like that. So I help out with the mentorship as well. But we help them, and they do their acts and figure some stuff out. And they've been performing on the stage with the pros every Saturday night. Our tickets range from between $10 and $20 depending on what the show is. This Saturday's show is a $10 show. But we've got some big events coming up. September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we've got the Enigma, who's going to be doing two nights of sideshow and one night of question and answer, along with the film Circus of the Scars, which is the documentary about the Jim Rose Sideshow. So we do that kind of stuff. We try to movie night on Thursdays. We're retooling that. We've got a horror movie host who's got a pretty large following by the name of Count Gregula. And Count Gregula is going to be hosting our Thursday nights now, which will in our Museum of the Transmundane, which you see back there. And it is going to be the Count's Museum of Moldy Movie Madness.
Great.
And so we're gonna do our full movie screenings back there with him. So like I said, we've retooled that. We're gonna be doing we have one of my scoopers who's a magician, has a partner who is a sideshow performer, and together they're spectacular as the Welcome to Fun show. And they're going to pick up as house performers also. So we're thinking either Wednesdays or Fridays. Welcome to Fun will have a permanent spot where they can also grow their show and grow their brand. We have walk around magicians, walk around balloon artists on any given day. Myself and all my scoopers are performers. I've got 2 magicians, 2 jugglers, and a contortionist. And even if there's
I want the contortionist.
What's that?
I want the contortionist to serve me.
Yeah, they are great. Raven is spectacular, and I'm working on a routine with them. I got Raven a straitjacket.
Oh, wow.
And
Raven, there you go. That's all they need.
Raven's going to be doing where most straitjacket escapes are hard struggles, where there's a lot of this to get out of it. Raven is also a poet and also non-binary. So Raven is going to be doing a routine that is a mixture of poetry, contortion, and straitjacket escape about the confines of society upon their existence, basically, their gender and things like that. And it'll be slow, beautiful contortionist escaping from a straitjacket.
Wow.
Rather than, your standard magician struggling. So,
that's great.
Things like that. So we're working on a lot of different acts for our scoopers to do. But there's always something going on here where we've got plenty to see. The museum's back there. That's free. We've got, every once in a while, if we do fill up the place and the urge strikes any of my scoopers, they'll jump up on stage, fire up the microphone, and do a stage act. We've got a really cool photo booth with a trunk full of stuff you can wear. We got stuff to see all over the place. There's things hidden all over the shop, little Easter eggs and QR codes, and so
it's amazing. And it seems like
fun.
This is just the best testimony to doing what you love, following the thing that makes you happy, the thing that you enjoy the most. And
full disclosure, I've been open 2 months, and like any business, you struggle for the first year. So
certainly,
this has yet to make me happy. I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
At the happy part.
Are we smirking?
I might be slowly getting out of regret. But
okay. Hey,
But for the most part, I haven't quite hit the happy mark yet. So,
but you're going through the natural evolution, like you said, of starting a new concept, bringing these worlds together. You're on track.
It kills me, it's like when I acquired this spot. The spot had been sitting vacant for a long time, and the landlord was really happy that somebody was going to come in with a concept like this, and the alderman was happy, because I'm on a strip of Western Avenue by Lincoln Square. And Lincoln Square is sort of this weird little enclave where it's all very quaint, and there's shops, and there's a little fountain, and it's a square that's kind of off the main streets. And people have a tendency to not want to go onto stinky Western Avenue. And we've been trying to get people to come out of their little shopping cocoon over there to see some of the other cool businesses that are along this way, and to help build out this area.
Sure.
So this was very appealing to the aldermen as well. So I managed to get this property really kind of early, like almost a year before I started even doing the build out on it, mainly because I was also applying for a grant, and I had to have the property in my hands for the city of Chicago to agree to it. And I did get the grant, which is great. It helped with my build out immensely. But I had up in the windows for almost a year and a half banners with sword swallowers and fire eaters and shrunken heads with the world's greatest gelato and big, beautiful colors facing Western Avenue, where literally thousands of cars go by daily, right? And yet I keep hearing, we didn't even know you were here.
Of course.
We've been living in the neighborhood for 15 years, and we didn't even know you were here. We didn't even know you were coming.
Yeah.
Open your eyes.
What can I
You can lead them to water, but
you
can't make them
think, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But at the very least, I think it's wonderful that you were out there fighting the good fight, coming up with something unique, allowing all these people to share their particular gifts and skills with a wider audience, to keep this world and culture alive, and doing your little part to it. It does the heart good.
What's important to me also here is the fact that, we're not first, and I think this might be kind of hurting me a little bit, because it's the sort of the misconception that we're a kiddie place. We're not a Chuck E. Cheese. We're not a kiddie place. You come in, there's no clowns. I do not allow clowns in the joint.
That's a good ground rule for any business.
Fair.
Yeah.
There's no ventriloquists. That's the other thing. That's my own personal father hang.
Understood.
We all got our own thing. Yep.
But we represent, people who were born different and very, very interesting people all over the place. And we give the history of the Sideshow and the history of it, how it relates to the city of Chicago, as well as present some gaffes and some dye museum items that to a weaker constitution might be found a little upsetting. And the thing is that's what we do. We're for everybody, though. We're a family place. And I'm bringing the opportunity for Sideshow and magic to be exposed to a younger audience.
Yeah.
Because right now, in the city of Chicago, even where there's a huge community of people that are performing this stuff, it's either the Magic Lounge, which is 18 and over bar, or it is burlesque. And that's not where this stuff started.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
It may be where it went, but it's not where it started. The Sideshow and vaudeville were for everybody. And I'm trying to bring that back a little bit. I'm trying to get that here.
Yeah.
And accessible. And I think that's probably my biggest goal.
No,
as far
I mean,
as entertainment is concerned. So
yeah, bring them in with the gelato and then blow their minds with Raven and their straitjacket and their poems. I mean, that sounds like an amazing evening. For more information on Sideshow Gelato, check out their website, sideshowgelato.com. For more information on the shows that they have at Sideshow Gelato, you can check out the website, sideshowchicago.com. And to follow the store on Instagram, they are at Sideshow Gelato. And on Facebook, they're at facebook.com/Sideshow Gelato.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters, located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?